Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Online Marketing Success, your guide to planning, reviewing, and executing. Thank you so much for joining us today. No matter where you're at in your marketing journey, building a solid foundation requires three main actions that help you to pave the way to online marketing success. Reviewing your current status, creating a plan to reach your goals, and then executing on that plan. If we take a look at a few stats and what we know that 69% of small businesses use digital marketing to attract customers and sales. And 47% of small business owners run their marketing efforts themselves. And I'm sure that stands for a lot of you here in the audience today. But we also know that 45% of organizations don't have a clearly defined digital marketing strategy and plan, which is what will really help you to succeed. That solid foundation and plan with the right tools and strategy is really what's going to help to propel you forward. Now, today's webinar is not any sort of demo, but it is an overarching conversation on how to market your business or nonprofit to really get you thinking about how to take your goals, turn them into a plan and then to action, and use an integrated approach all along. In the end, you're going to be able to create your own plan and end the year on a high note and even start planning for next year. Let's go ahead and take a look at our agenda and see more specifically what we're going to cover today. We're going to start by talking about how to plan and set practical real-world goals. Then we're going to talk about how to review your marketing tools and your approach. And lastly, we're going to talk about how to execute your plan. We're going to be able to focus on a few simple actions that you can take that will certainly help to boost your productivity and results. Now, before we get into the details, allow me to more formally introduce myself as well as our wonderful guest for today. My name is Stephanie French, and I'm the senior producer for webinars here at Constant Contact, and I'll be your host. And I'm very excited to bring back our guest, David Fisher. He is the founder for Solutions for Growth, and he is a certified Constant Contact solution provider. He's worked with businesses and nonprofits just like yours for the past 14 years to really help them grow. Solutions for Growth develops the strategies and marketing tools that small businesses need to grow in order to let the world know how great all of your organizations really are. So if you want to hop on and say a quick hello, David.
Hi, Stephanie. Thanks for having me today.
We are so glad to have you back. All right, well, let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's talk about planning and setting those goals. Having a clear plan really starts by defining realistic, practical goals that you're going to want to focus on. This helps to keep your efforts focused and achievable. Now, you might have overall goals for your business or even goals that relate to your specific marketing activities. So we like to say, start by thinking about these two questions here. One, are there new things that I should implement? Maybe that's a new social channel or some other tool that you want to try. And number two, are there existing things that you're already doing that you might want to improve on? Maybe capturing sales or donations from your email marketing efforts or getting more people on your list. The thing about goals is that you want to remember done is better than perfect when it comes to setting these goals. So don't overthink it, just get something down on paper so that you can get to working towards those goals. So David, I'd love it if you could kick us off here. What do you find is your best advice for setting these real-world goals for businesses or nonprofit organizations?
Yes, you're right, Stephanie. That's the first step because the goals are what really drive the next steps that need to happen with marketing. And when we start working with some of our clients, one of the questions is, what are your goals? And the typical answer is, well, I want to grow sales, I want to get more customers, or so on. But that's a very broad goal. And what we find after the conversation is the need to narrow down the goal to something a little bit more specific. So for example, do you want to increase the average transaction amount in your business? Do you want to introduce a new product line or service line? Do you want to improve or change or build a website? So those are far narrower goals to meet, and those will drive the type of marketing tools and messaging that you're going to have to put in place. So for example, if you are a jewelry store, for example, and you want to introduce a new jewelry designer, you need to figure out the combination of marketing tools that integrate together that help you reach that goal. The vast majority of tools today are digital. Obviously, there's space also for things like direct mail or even a signage in a store, things like that. But the vast majority of ways that people will find your organization, whether it's a nonprofit or whether it's a for-profit company, is the digital world. So on the nonprofit side, an example of goals is similar to a profit business. I want to increase the average donation amount. I want to get new donors. I want to introduce a new campaign. Those very specific goals, again, will help determine what you need to do to reach them.
Great. Now, in terms of realistic goals and setting numbers, how do you set something that's a bit of a challenge, but also obtainable for your business?
So there were two ways to look at it. If you have prior data and you want to improve on it, so for example, if you have existing sales or an existing number of customers or things like that, we find that a goal of anywhere of between 5 and 15% in terms of improvement is something realistic. It's always better to reach a goal or even exceed it than to try to reach an unrealistic goal that will be very difficult to hit, and it becomes really an exercise in frustration. If you do have prior data, then that will be easier. If you don't, start with simple measurable goals, depending on the organization. It could be something like getting 1 new customer a month, or selling at least X dollars per month, or growing by 5% the following month. Keep it simple, measurable. Once you start getting data, then you can, for the future, start using those numbers as a basis for future goals.
Great tips. Now, we do have a worksheet that goes along with the webinar today where you can go in there and write down your goals just as we're talking about here today. I find that's one of the best ways to just write it down, put it up on your wall right above your computer, and maybe refer back to it every once in a while so that you can keep that in the back of your mind and stay on track with those goals. So we'll have Amanda, who's helping behind the scenes, share that in the chat window. So we'd love to hear more about your goals. So I'm going to launch a poll on your screen. We would love to hear, what is your #1 goal for the next year? We've got 5 answers here on the screen. If you don't see the answer or the goal that you're really focused on, tell us using the questions window, that question mark icon. Maybe your answer is to attract more new customers or supporters. Maybe you want to increase the average sales transaction or donation. Maybe you want to introduce a new product or service, improving the conversion of leads to sales or even donations, or increasing referrals are the examples there that we have in the poll. I think those are probably some of the most popular ones, but if you have other ones, like I said, put them in the questions window. I know in some of our latest research, we've seen people wanting to market to their target audience a little bit better, so finding ways to do that is one of their goals. Any other goals that you think people may have, David?
Yes, the ones that are in the poll are very logical ones. One that sometimes some small businesses or organizations find intimidating is starting to use a new marketing tool. So for example, people have heard of Google Ads or search engine optimization. Those are a little bit more complex tools, but they are enormously effective to be found and drive more donations or sales. The reason Google is so successful is because their primary tool, which is Google Ads, is so effective at driving people to websites for products, services, organizations that they're looking for. And we'll touch upon that a little bit further in the presentation.
Great. Yeah, I see Amanda in there says diversifying referral sources. Rick says as an FBO, new names with emails. Zakaya, I hope I said your name correctly, increase alumni and volunteer engagement. That's great. Jenny says introducing a new location. Cheryl says increasing customer engagement. That's important. Sori says the goal is to increase and enhance communication with our existing clients. Amanda establish ourselves as industry experts. So I see lots and lots of examples coming in there. Dick is looking to work on some SEO, it sounds like, so that's great. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Thank you all for sending those in. Let's see how everybody voted in the poll examples with those. So outstandingly, the #1 vote there is 59% of you said attracting more new customers or supporters. And then the second most popular answer there was improving the conversion of leads to sales. 9% of you said increasing the average sales transaction, 8% said introducing a new product or service, and then 7% said increasing referrals. So thank you so much for sharing your goals with us. Let me reshare my screen here. All right, so let's talk in a little bit more details about these goals and how you might turn those into plans and strategies and actions. So we're going to talk about some goals for small businesses, and then on the next slide, we'll talk about those of you in the nonprofit world. So first up, for small businesses. I think probably one of the most common goals is attracting more new customers or clients. So what would you include in the plan for this goal?
Well, there's several things that can be done, and what we're talking about is exactly what that poll reflected, with 59% of people responding saying, I want more customers and more donors. That's really the engine that drives growth. So things that can be done are a referral program. Bring us a new donor or new customers, and you both get something, a benefit. Consider buying a direct mail list of people who you don't know about you yet, and doing a direct mail campaign. If you are a business that has a storefront, signage in the window, hugely effective. So often I walk by a store and there's no signage in the window that tells you what to do or what they sell. Run an event. It could be a webinar, it could be an in-person event, a presentation. You need to change something in your marketing if you want something to change in your sales. Don't expect different results if you're not changing your marketing. That's a standard element. Each of the various things that can be done will impact the results that you are setting up for the goal you want to reach. If, for example, you want to target your existing audience, things that you can do is on social media, using social ads, whether it's on Facebook or Reddit or Instagram or LinkedIn and so on, driving ads to people who already are connected with you to drive more business, or similar people to those who are already connected with you, so that they either engage with you on social media or you drive them to the website so that they learn more about your business. The beauty of social media ads is the ability to target people based on who they are and what their behavior is. A similar but very different tool is Google Ads, where it's also a pay-per-click program where you pay for people to come to the website. But the big difference is that with Google Ads, people tend to be more qualified because they are actively looking for something. So if I'm in front of my computer or on my phone and I'm looking for a new CPA to do my taxes, I'm actively looking for someone. So if the CPA in my neck of the woods is running Google Ads, that person will appear at the top of the page, and I will click on the ad and go to their website. That's how Google Ads works from a big picture perspective. Another element is search engine optimization, or SEO for short, which is I call it the art and science of getting a website to appear on page 1 organically without paying Google.
Can I address a couple of questions coming in from Sue and Lisa and maybe a few others? So David is mentioning buying a direct mail list, mailing via snail mail, not talking about an email list. Never, ever buy an email list. That is definitely a bad idea. But what David is talking about is reaching out to them via other avenues.
Correct. Never, ever buy or rent an email list. It's a recipe for failure and affecting negatively your sender reputation, which impacts the percentage of emails that are delivered, both from your personal email account and when you're using an email service provider like Constant Contact, which has the highest deliverability rate in business, but it needs to be done with email addresses of people with whom you have some degree of relationship with.
Antonio, you don't ever want to buy an email list, but David, can you address where you might buy a direct mail list?
Sure. There are list brokers where you can reach out to them. I mean, we offer that service as well, where you say, I'm looking for these type of people. For example, women who live in certain zip codes with a certain household income and have a certain interest or drive a certain car. There are a million ways of narrowing down the people who you're looking for a direct mail program. It's very effective to do something like that because you're really touching the people who you know are interested in your product, service, or organization.
Great. Thank you so much for clarifying that. So another big goal here is, of course, converting leads to sales. How would you strategize and plan for this goal?
Well, the beauty of using email, for example, is that you can create what is called a nurture series, an email nurture series, also known as an autoresponder. So let's take it one step further. You're running a Google Ads campaign, a Facebook campaign, or an SEO program, and basically you're driving people to your website, which is great. But once they come to the website, what happens? So the best thing that you can do is to offer something of value. It could be through a pop-up, it could be a simple form on the website. There are different ways of structuring that, but you're offering something of value. It could be a coupon for a discount. It could be information such as a white paper. So if you are in the landscaping business, you could offer something, 7 secrets you need to know before you plant your lawn or you seed your lawn or something like that. And some of those people will give you that email address in return for the coupon and the information. And what happens is that email address is automatically and immediately added to your list in Constant Contact. And that triggers the first of a series of emails that are pre-written and pre-scheduled that are nurturing that person during this consideration period of who should I hire to take care of my landscaping, for example. And the advantage of that is that every few days, one of these emails is sent to this person, basically tapping them on the shoulder saying, hey, this is Mary's landscaping service. This is information about who we are and why we're great. And when that happens, there's a higher likelihood that they will ask you to come over for a quote or an estimate or something like that, simply because you are the one among your competitors who has the ability to stay in touch with this customer and nurture them during this period. I call it the consideration period of who should I hire for this service.
Right.
I'll add one other element, and there is a concept both on Google and social media of retargeting. Retargeting ads are the ads that follow you after you come to someone's website. I'm sure you've seen them where you just keep seeing ads from a company whose website you were recently on. And similar to an email nurture series, it's tapping people on the shoulder saying, hey, are you still interested in the landscaping service or that pair of shoes or whatever else you're offering? These retargeting campaigns, because you see them all the time, work very well to get the person to the next step, making them from a cold lead to a little bit warmer lead and more likely to buy from you.
Great, thank you so much. And for those of you who are asking about how to properly grow your mailing list, we're going to touch on that a little bit later today, so hang tight. Let's talk about the nonprofit world and some of those goals. So attracting supporters, how would you go about planning to meet this goal?
So there are different ways that can be done. We spoke about social media. So let's say you're at an animal shelter, right? So you can target people who have interest in pets, specifically dogs. You can create events at the animal shelter. Maybe there's something new to celebrate and you have a ribbon cutting ceremony. Maybe you want to honor someone, an employee or a donor, and you can have an event surrounding that. You want to make sure that you issue press releases to the local press, all things to raise your profile in the market. Another thing you can do is align yourself with a local pet store or veterinarian local businesses that tie in with your line of business, if you would. It's a place to ask for volunteers, for donations. So think about, if you're a nonprofit, think about what other organizations share your same target market. So if you are a nonprofit that works with children, a great approach would be a store that sells kids clothing or schools or things like that, so that there's a connection between the other organization and what your goal is from a nonprofit perspective. On the profit side, similar situation. You can, lawyers and CPAs can get together, hair salons and nail places, real estate agents and decorators or movers. You get the point. By working together in a non-competing situation and targeting the same market, you really create more muscle in your marketing, typically with better results.
Great. I love the idea of partnering. And of course, another big goal for nonprofits is really fundraising. Can you address what a plan might look like for nonprofits for that goal?
Sure. Direct mail works very well. Email, events, run raffles. There are a lot of things that can be done. And what I'll comment on is it's important that you do two things. One is that the marketing is well executed. We in the marketing business, if you would, we see a lot of marketing efforts that have all the right intentions, but are really not meeting best practices. And the marketing is ho-hum instead of marketing that's really done well. So really giving thought, planning, trying to learn, using an agency, will make a difference in terms of making sure that your marketing is done well. The other thing I'll mention is that too many, and this is both for nonprofits and companies, is too many companies want to market from their desk and their computer. So although you have all these terrific digital marketing tools, it's really important to get out there in the real world and shake people's hands, meet them for coffee, have a meeting. There's, as much as the digital marketing is fantastic and works very well, in some situations, having a human connection, the shaking hand aspect, really makes a big difference. So as much as I encourage you to do digital marketing and use the fantastic tools that Constant Contact has, and perhaps working with us, it's really also important to get up from your desk and go and meet people in person, networking, helping, volunteering, and so on. Makes a huge difference to raise a profile in the market of yourself and your business.
I couldn't agree more. Let's talk a little bit more about the advice you have for helping our audience take these goals and really turning them into plans and into action. What do you have to say there?
Try not to do too much. Determine what your goal is. Focus on a handful of things at a time, 1, 2, 3 things. Break them up into smaller actions and smaller tactical plans so that it's manageable. Create a plan so you know exactly what needs to happen when. Try to give yourself plenty of time, especially on the planning and preparation part, because invariably that takes more time. And also consider testing. So part of successful marketing, because there's no guarantee, is testing something. So let's say you're starting a new email campaign, take 10 or 20% of your email list, run the test. Depending on the results, you might extend it to the whole list, or maybe you'll say, I need to tweak something before I do that. The other thing to keep in mind is marketing is not something that you do in January or December only on Thursday afternoons. Marketing is something that needs to happen all the time. Frankly, without marketing, nothing happens. You could be the best company in the world in your industry, but if the world doesn't know about it, they're not going to buy from you. So that's an important concept to keep in mind. Must have a marketing plan that takes place all the time.
Great. So the other side of creating a successful plan is really to evaluate the tools and results from what you're already doing. You want to identify what's working well and what needs improvement so you understand your strengths and your weaknesses. So first, I want to make a note that it's really important that you use foundational elements and tools together in your strategy. You've got your website, which is your online hub, your email marketing, your social media, and then text. It's not either or for these tools. You really need to be using them together, which is a common mistake that I think myself as well as David, you tend to find. So let's dive in and let's talk about some of these individual tools and the things that you want to review in your approach. And we'll start with the website. What are the metrics you'd want to pay attention to here in order to know how your website is performing and what might you need to change?
So your website is your number one marketing tool. Without a website, you frankly almost don't exist. And anybody who's considering doing business with you will look you up online. And aside from having different online profiles and so on, your website is where everything happens because everything links back to your website. So the primary tool to measure performance of your website is Google Analytics. It's a free tool from Google that's relatively easy to install. And it tells you everything you wanted to know about the traffic on your website. How much are you getting? The type of traffic, is it organic? Is it paid? Is it referral? It's telling you about bounce rate, meaning how many people come to the website and just leave right away. And conversions, there are tools that let you know how many conversions there are. And a conversion is the sale of a product. If you're an e-commerce business, someone calls you up from the website, someone fills out a form. That is basic data. It's your online dashboard that's telling you how the website is performing. And it's something that you should be monitoring on a pretty regular basis to see how things are going. Keep in mind that your website needs to make a good first impression. People will judge your company based on how you look online. Again, you could be the best business around, but if your website looks like it was built 10 years ago or a fifth grader put it together, that will reflect poorly on your business, and it may be a huge deterrent from getting your phone to ring.
And we do have a really helpful guide that our team has put together. If you'd like to learn more about setting that up and creating those tracking links in there. Let's talk a little bit about email marketing as well. What are some of the metrics you'd want to pay attention to and how you know what's working here and what's not working here?
Most people, I think, are familiar with the concept of opens and clicks. Opens is how many people open the email, both as a number and as a percentage, and the clicks is how many people clicked on a link in your email. Opens provides, I would call it directional information to let you know, is the trend going up, is it going down? And clicks are actually a better measure of engagement because it's people who are actually engaging with the email and clicking to things most likely linked to your website. Again, once they're on the website, look at conversions. Are they buying from you? Are they downloading things and things like that? The other thing to keep in mind with email marketing is segmenting. And Constant Contact has a terrific tool that allows you to either manually segment people or to use automation to segment people. So if people are clicking your email, let's say you sell sweaters, and people are clicking on the blue sweater, you then put all these people who clicked on the sweater in a separate list, and you might want to follow up with them with a special promotion for people who didn't buy yet to buy that sweater. That's a very simple example, but all of this technology is in place at Constant Contact, and it's in their system that allows you just to really give more power to your email list, because the moment you segment it, you can be more specific in your communication with your list. Other things to look at very carefully, I call these the negative things. Look at your unsubscribes. If it's going up, it means there's an issue with your campaign. Typically, unsubscribe rate goes up when the frequency is too high or there is no value in the emails. Meaning, if you send too frequently, people are bugged by that. Don't do that. And the value is the content in the email. If it's only self-serving, you're not giving value in terms of information or things like that, people will say, hey, you're a nice person, but I don't see value in the email, so please don't send to me again. Bounces is another thing to look at very carefully. Bounces are for email addresses that are no longer valid. Constant Contact gives you information about that. And for email addresses that are no longer valid, you should remove those email addresses from the list. It's called data hygiene. It's just a way of making sure that your list is clean. The cleaner it is, the less bounces you have, the higher deliverability and results you're going to get. Consider making sure that you also have frequency. For most businesses, once, maybe twice a month is the right frequency. Once you go up from there, you might start getting a higher unsubscribe rate. And lastly, test things. Test your subject line, test the offer. You know, Consecanta has this terrific A/B test tool that allows you to test, for example, 2 different subject lines, and automatically the better performing subject line will be applied to the remaining email addresses that are not in the A/B test. Smart approach, basic thing to do. Consider doing it. It can only help your email program.
Lots of great things to look at there. Let's talk about social media, because this is important as well, as long as you should be using it together with all of these other tools. What are the metrics that are best to pay attention to for social media?
So I'll start out by saying a word of caution. So there are 2 worlds in social media. There is the quote free social media, where you are posting on your page. Doesn't cost anything except for time. But keep in mind that only about 10%, if not less, of people who like your page will see those posts. The other type of posting on social media is done through ads. It's a pay-to-play program. That's how, whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn or X or so on, make their money. And the ads, which I mentioned earlier, are a smart way to target people for whatever you're offering, whatever you're looking to fundraise, and so on. That said, the main measures in a social media campaign is engagement. Are people liking and sharing and commenting? Those are indication that people are interested in what you have to post. You want to look at your follower growth. Is it going up? Is it going down? The more followers you get, the higher the rate of growth is, the more value people are seeing in that program. In the program we manage with our clients, both on the paid side and the free side, it's really a question of frequency. You know, we have clients who come in and say, oh, I'd like to post maybe once a week. And I say, you know, once a week is not going to cut it. You really need to be posting multiple times a week for any material impact for your business on social media. And on the paid side, it can be a little hairy to set it up and know how to structure it. But again, the number of ads running and making sure that the best performing ad works better is an important thing to consider in social media.
Great. Let's move on and talk about text or SMS, which is really another essential tool that helps you to reach your audience. Really, this is for your most timely messages, and often these people can be considered your VIP subscribers. What do you recommend reviewing here in terms of your strategy and analytics?
So text marketing is perfect for what I call quick action items. So let's say you are a bakery, right? And at the end of the day, you have some leftover items that you need to get rid of, otherwise they have to be trashed. So what if you sent a text to your text list and say, hey, come in by 6 p.m. and you get every item in the store at half off. So that'll have an immediate impact on your sales because you're going to have a whole rush of people coming in buying those items. Things to look at, similar to email. Your click rate, unsubscribe, what kind of conversions you're getting, what kind of bounces are you getting for invalid numbers? Pretty basic stuff. Text marketing, maybe a little bit more complex to implement and know how to use, but the results are very quick and immediate. Smart approach.
Great. So in the end, I think a couple of things you want to ask yourself after reviewing all of your information. You've mentioned frequency and cadence, but really, number one, has my marketing been consistent? It's really important for a lot of these channels to make sure you're sending on a regular basis so people remember you and they don't forget they subscribed and gave you their information. That can be a little bit jarring and cause unsubscribes, spam reports, all that stuff. The other question is, are some methods more effective? Is there something where you want to put more resources into certain elements of your marketing, or work to build up something that doesn't seem to be performing as well? And then of course, do I need to add any additional marketing tools is another important approach. You want to make sure you have those 4 foundational elements, which is important. But there might be some other things, and David, you've briefly touched on these things. You've mentioned social media ads, but there's also where you can layer on Google Ads and SEO. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Certainly, sure. So the big difference between Google Ads and SEO is Google Ads is you're paying for an ad to appear at the top of page 1, and the example on the page, you see that a Beamer's only best BMW repair. That's an ad. It's actually marked as an ad. All the other listings below that are organic listings, and those appear there because of the work that is taking place on those websites for Google to rank them highly. Anytime you appear on page 1 of Google, whether it's an ad or organically, it has huge value. I'm sure you've all used it. You typically click on the links on page 1, and that is of high value. A big part of what we do with our clients is the management of Google Ads. We're actually a Google certified partner, which is a pretty hard designation to get. And we have a team of folks that basically do this all day long. And typically clients that start working with us stay with us for years because it works.
I full-heartedly agree. SEO is very important, and it's slow but organic, but really powerful and effective. Now, I know often our marketers are worried about their budget, especially when it comes to spending money or thinking about spending money on ads. So what would you say is a good rule of thumb for how much to spend on your marketing overall, and when you might take this next step to get into running ads?
On average, small businesses tend to spend between 3 and 6% of revenue on marketing. That is a number that will have an impact on your marketing. And one thing to keep in mind is that too many small businesses think that marketing is free because they just use word of mouth marketing or they're posting on social media. That is hampering your growth if that is your approach. Think of large companies. The reason they are large companies is because they have, among other things, done marketing very well. Marketing is investment in the growth of your business, and it's something that will determine the future success.
Great. And I know, David, you joined me, I think it was last year for a webinar on SEO, and we talked about really the basics of that, what that means, and how to get started with that. So we're going to share a link in the chat window if you would like to watch what David had to say about SEO. All right, so let's dive in and let's talk a little bit about executing your plan. Because our time is limited today, we're really going to focus on some simple actions you can take to boost productivity and results. So let's talk about this first thing here, growing your list. Really, you want to take people from these channels like your website and your social media and get them to more of an owned channel that you have more control over. So get them on your email list and even your text list if that's something you're using. Can you talk to us a little bit more about how to properly grow a list? I know that was a question we saw a little bit earlier.
Sure. So you have to think that every email list that you have is something of high value because it allows you to communicate with that person. Marketing is communication, and that's why an email address is so important. So different ways to capture an email address, the simple, you meet someone and they give you a business card, that's an easy one. But if we're looking at the online, create a form or landing page on your website that can also be promoted on social that invites people to give you their email address in return for something of value. This can be done on your website, it can be done on social media, and we do this ourselves on our website as well. For example, Amanda will be posting now a link to an offer that we have for all of you who are on this special webinar, and it's a document called the Essential Email Marketing Checklist. If you click on the link and provide your email address, you will receive that checklist. We've had it for a long time. It's always updated, and the feedback has been very positive about it. You will also then receive our monthly email newsletter. We've been doing it for 14 years, and the feedback from some of our clients is that it's not fluff, it's real stuff. Because it's a short newsletter each month that gives you information that you can use and put in place in your small business or nonprofit. Test, see what happens, keep doing that. but change something in your business if you want to see different results.
And really, it comes down to just asking in all of these different channels. Typically, when we're talking about list growth, we talk about asking in all of your different channels, 3 buckets. In person, in your in-person interactions, networking events, in your print materials, and even in all these online channels, your website, your social media, and even using ads to reach that additional target audience and get them on your list so that you can start to nurture them. And along those same lines, we really do suggest you at the very least set up a welcome email that introduces them to your business and fulfills on whatever offer you might entice them to sign up with. When they sign up and give you their email address, they're highly engaged with you. So you want to keep that momentum going and at the very least send a welcome email. That way they don't have to wait for your regularly scheduled email. And we also, in a lot of cases, suggest turning that into a full series of emails, 3 emails, in fact. Email 1's that welcome delivery. Email 2 is the invitation to connect. That's where you can ask them to join or follow you on social media. And then number 3 is the things to know about your business. Maybe this is business information, maybe this is your business hours or other things that subscribers might need to know about what makes your service and how you provide your service different from your competitors, or what's different about your product or your nonprofit and the cause. And there's really so many other ways that you can use automation to engage with your audience at key moments. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about those different opportunities?
Sure. So the example you showed earlier with the cookies, perfect example, or this makeup company, and that's a product. And what we find when we develop these for our clients is that the more educational these email series are, the more impactful they are. It goes back to the value aspect. You know, am I getting value out of this email? Think about it yourself. Sometimes you get email from companies that really don't have that much that you see of value, so you're going to unsubscribe. You know, it's the value that determines, and by sharing information, so for example, the monthly newsletter I described earlier, 90% of it is real good, solid information about some element of marketing for small businesses. Other things that can be used is a birthday or anniversary email. For example, if you were an HVAC company and you need to remind people that their maintenance contract is coming up, an anniversary email is a smart thing. And you can say, you know, if you renew by a certain date, you know, get 10% off or get a free air filter or something like that to entice people to act and create a sense of urgency. Keep in mind that the beauty of email is that it's push marketing. You're pushing messages in people's inboxes. That's very different than social media marketing, for example, where people need to go to Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, and so on to see something, and they may not see it because only about 10% of people are seeing what's actually getting posted. That's the huge value of email marketing. It is year after year the marketing tool that gets ranked as the one with the highest return on investment simply because it's so effective.
Great. Well, let's talk a little bit more. You mentioned segmentation a little bit earlier. It's such an important way to grow your list, increase your or to get more action in your emails and increase those conversions. So I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit more about your recommendations and the strategy that our audience could use.
Sure, Stephanie. I mean, there are different ways to use segmenting. One is the example I gave you earlier about sweaters, right? And so someone clicks on the sweater and they get an email series about sweaters. But you can segment your list based on behaviors and actions. It could be their geographic information, East Coast versus West Coast, Texas versus Oklahoma. You can split it between men and women or customers and prospects. Any logic that your business would use so that the communication to that segment is more specific, really speaks to them more, will improve the performance of your program. Whether it's in email marketing or direct mail or outbound telemarketing, I mean, you name it. The more targeted your list is, the more targeted your message, the better results you're going to get.
Agreed. Sending more relevant content, when it's more relevant, they're more likely to pay attention. They're more likely to take the action you want.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we've also got a few other ideas to help you maximize productivity, because marketing, it's easier said than done in a lot of cases. It can take up some time, but there's really some things that you can use, especially in today's world, to boost that productivity and improve your results. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. So if you're looking at, we're talking about email marketing. So one of the fantastic things that Constant Contact introduced a short while ago is the artificial intelligence feature, where you don't have to type up all the content for the email. You just put in just a few words, maybe just a question or what the goal of the email, and auto-magically it writes the email for you. Fantastic and a huge time saver. The other thing you need to do is to make sure that you have a well-designed template that really reflects your brand. So for example, we have a full service email marketing program, and the first thing that we do when we set it up for our clients is we create a custom designed template that matches the client's website. It includes even the menu bar from the website. So it's really fully branded and it's clear that it's coming from that particular company. Repurpose your content. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you, for example, have content on your website or a white paper or blog article, that can be put in the email newsletter. It can be split up into individual social media posts. So you can repurpose the same content, even a video, for example, different ways.
Yep.
And then set up integrations. Integrations is when one system works with another one, so you save time, it syncs information. And because we're talking here with Constant Contact has a large number of integrations with all sorts of other online platforms so that the communication flows seamlessly between all the various online platforms. Check it out.
Yeah, really save yourself a lot of time by just taking a few minutes to set these things up, and then it's going to save you so much time in the long run.
Yep.
So we're at a really good point. I'd like to start to wrap up so we can get to the Q&A section. We have lots of great questions coming in. So we'll get to those in just a few moments if you could stick around with us. But David, I'd love it if you could leave us with any final thoughts or things you want to leave the audience with today.
Sure. So if you have a takeaway here is that there's a logical flow in making sure that you're marketing successful. The first one is you need to determine your goals, try to keep them narrow. Your goals will determine the strategy you're going to use to reach those goals. And your strategy determines the tools you're going to use to do that and the messaging that's going to go there. So goals, strategy, messaging, and tools. So for example, let's say you're offering a service. Let's say you're a CPA and your goal is that you want more clients this year. Your strategy is that you use is to offer something like your first tax return at a discount when the client commits to 2 years of tax returns. This is just an example, but you understand what I'm getting at. The messaging is about how certain you are about the fact that the tax returns are correct, that you will save the new client a lot of taxes and time, and that you'll be using certain tools to do that. So you're going to use your email marketing list and, for example, Google Ads to get new customers. So that's a very basic approach to from beginning to end, from goals to implementation, so that you get success.
That's a really great example. So I want to share that we've also got a planning calendar that we're going to share in the chat window. So this is where you can use your goals and everything and start to plan out individual campaigns, things like your social posts and elements, as well as the holidays that you might market around. Obviously, there are some big ones in there, but there's also some more fun ones like National Guacamole Day that happens every year. If that's something you could have fun with in your business and implement in there, you can start to jot down these different ideas on when you might run and send these different campaigns. So Amanda's going to share that in the chat window as well. All right, so I just want to let you all know that at Constant Contact, we do offer an easy to use digital marketing platform. Email at its core, but automation, social media tools, digital ads, surveys, events, and so much more. Plus we do, like David said, we have tons of integrations, and this is only a small portion of what we have. You can integrate with Donor Perfect, Canva, Shopify, Eventbrite, WooCommerce, Google Ads, and so much more. So if you don't already have an account, you can sign up for a free trial. You can just go to constantcontact.com or share the link that Amanda just shared there in the chat window. And by the way, all of these links are going to be in the follow-up email. So I know we didn't talk a lot about execution this time because we focused really on planning, but next month is all about execution, and it's called Digital Marketing Must-Haves to Attract, Engage, and Grow. That webinar is happening on October 26th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So Amanda's just shared a link if you would like to register for that as well. And David, if you could tell us a little bit more about your essential email marketing checklist.
Sure. It's the various things that need to be in place to make sure that your email marketing is not ho-hum, but really sings. It's several pages that go through all the things you need to keep in mind, the way it looks, the way it is written, how it's prepared, when it is sent, how to look at the report. It's the basics to make sure that you're touching on all the right things, to make sure that your investment in time, effort, and money really results in something of value to your organization. There is a link in the screen there. There's a link in the chat. And I believe, do we have some time for some Q&As, Stephanie?
Yes, we sure do. So let's go ahead and get into the list of questions here. Teresa, I see your question about having a video on setting up segmentation. We actually have a really great series of webinars that focus on how to do a lot of these things in Constant Contact, including segmentation. So Amanda, if you could share a link to the events page that we have there in our document, if you could share that with the entire audience. There's one for create and send for whoever was just asking about setting up a master template. We can certainly walk you through how to do that, set it up, and use the tools there, plus many other things within the account. So I see Sue and Antonio are asking more questions about, one, where to purchase those direct mail lists, and can you talk a little bit more too about the value if they can't market to the list in Constant Contact?
So a direct mail list can be purchased through a broker. This is a service that we offer as well. We have a conversation about who you're targeting, and we can identify a list that works for your business. Regarding the email list, I'm not fully clear on that part of the question.
So I believe what they're referring to is what really is the value of a direct mail list if we're not getting email addresses and we can't market to that list in Constant Contact, because there are canned spam rules and other rules in Canada and the UK
Correct.
that are really specific to spam.
Direct mail doesn't have those limitations. And the difference between direct mail is that in email is digital, appears on the screen. Direct mail, you get a physical piece of paper that you can leave on your counter, on your desk, in your drawer. It's hugely impactful simply because it's a concrete sitting in your hands.
What would you find are the best examples of taking that direct mail and turning it into some sort of value? Is it just kind of a flyer, or maybe you include a QR code that takes people to your website, or what are your thoughts there?
There are so many things that can be done in direct mail. You touched on a couple of them. It can be a flyer, a postcard, a folded envelope, a brochure. There are hundreds of different uses of direct mail. And part of the planning is, okay, so what do we put on that piece of paper that will engage people and get them to take action? A QR code is a perfect example. And as an example, it drives people back to your website. Remember, your website is your #1 tool, and everything links back to that.
Great, thank you so much. Allison is wondering if you can explain a little bit more about sender reputation, and that was kind of linked to the direct mail conversation that we had, where we said you don't buy email lists because of, it's going to impact your sender reputation.
So sender reputation is actually a technical term that every sender, both as an individual and an email service provider such as Constant Contact, has within the ecosystem of the email industry. A sender reputation is an algorithm that determines your reputation in terms of, are you a good emailer? If you, for example, have a list that has very old email addresses of people who don't know you very well, you're going to have a lot of unsubscribes and a lot of bounces. That negatively impacts your sender reputation. So in the future, not all your emails may be delivered. It's a tool that the email industry uses to make sure that spammers are basically punished for what they're doing, hence don't rent an email list. And people who have squeaky clean email lists that have high engagement rates have an improved sender reputation.
Great. And David, I know you're an expert in this, but I will also mention we ran a webinar last month on deliverability. I will include the link to that video in the follow-up email as well, if you'd like to learn more about sender reputation and how to improve your deliverability, because I know we had a few questions about that as well. Let's see. Various people are asking, what is a good or even a bad frequency for email? And I know this is a loaded question, but we have people asking.
So I'll say that for most small businesses, once a month is a good cadence to make sure that it's frequent enough so that it has an impact on your email list, but not too frequent so that you start bugging your email list. Now, some businesses may have a better use for a weekly program. So for example, if you are a music school that has weekly classes, I would expect to receive an email from you each week with the updated schedule. But 1, maybe 2 emails per month for most businesses is the right approach.
Great. And I see Maud is asking, will direct mail lists include roles within organizations? For example, they need to target HR personnel.
Yep.
Will that apply?
Absolutely. You can ask for a list of HR VPs in a certain zip code for a certain industry, and that's exactly what you're going to get.
Perfect. Good to know. All right. Anai asks, when it comes to social media, at what rates does increasing your posting frequency help you attract new followers without using paid ads for every post?
Smart question. Your posting frequency does not impact the the percentage of time that your post is seen by people. What determines when your posts appear is tied to prior engagement rates with your posts. So even if you start posting 12 times a day, it will help a little bit probably, but it's really more based on the prior engagement rate, so that if Facebook sees that a lot of people are engaging with prior posts, more of your future posts will be seen. If there's no engagement rate, no like, comment, or share, chances are you are in the single digits as a percentage rate of your posts appearing. So more is a little bit better, but no guarantee of increasing dramatically the engagement, the percentage of people who see your posts.
And a good rule of thumb there with your ads is if you're posting something, you might want to post it and let it run a little bit first so that you can get an idea of whether people are responding and engaging with that, because I would only plan to use my money, at least for me, on the ones that I know are performing really well. So think about it that way, and you might see if some of your past posts are performing really well, maybe you want to put some money behind that and turn it into an ad.
Correct.
So Amanda asks, when you say 3 to 6% of revenue on marketing, what all is included in that? Is that the staff salary, base operating costs for in-house marketing staff? Can you explain that a little bit more?
It depends. It depends. I would say yes. If you have a full-time marketing staff or even one employee, or if you're using a marketing agency, but you're also spending money on graphic design or Google Ads ad spend, things like that. Overall, roughly 3, 4, 5, 6% is what we typically see with our clients. There are obviously exceptions. Some might spend only 1%, others may spend 20%. It really varies. The best gauge whether you're spending the right amount is to look at 2 things. One is, what is the industry average? And the other one, are you getting the results you're looking for?
Great, I think that makes a ton of sense. So let's get to one more question here. I see from Tesha, where is a good place to put gated content so that people have to sign up to learn more?
Gated content should appear where most of the people are coming to your website. It may be your homepage, or if you are running a campaign and people are coming to a specific page on your website, also known as a landing page about a particular product or service, you might want to put the offer there. It really depends on where most of the people are coming from and why they're coming there. How qualified are they, and are they coming there for a very specific reason?
Great. All right, I do see that we're at the top of the hour. David, I want to thank you so much for being here today. All of you in the audience, when the webinar closes out, a survey is going to pop up with 3 simple questions. We'd really love it if you take a minute or 2 to tell us what you thought about the webinar today. I do know that we had at least a few extra questions that we didn't get to, so we're going to work on answering those. We'll post them on our community. There will be a link to that, the recording, the resources, all in the follow-up email that we're going to send to you, hopefully by the end of today. So keep an eye on that. And all of you in the audience, thank you so much for being here and participating. We really appreciate your questions and you engaging with us. So thanks again so much, David. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Stephanie. It was a pleasure.
All right. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye, everyone.